Welcome to a special edition of College Football Express, where we are going to dive into one of the most legendary rivalries in all of college football, the Red River Rivalry, with the latest edition. Kicks off this weekend, and though it's been a wild season, from injuries to hype to disappointment to excitement, even if both these schools' teams were winless, it would still be must-watch viewing in Dallas at the legendary Cotton Bowl. And I'm very honored to have two great, knowledgeable fans, creators, whatever you want to call them, from Texas and Oklahoma. Ghost, who's been with us before, representing the Texas Longhorns side of the equation, and also Travis, who checks out Oklahoma. And I guess you could figure out from his hat where what he's intending to have happen here. So thank you both for joining us today. Greatly appreciate it. Travis, welcome. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, or where they can find you and what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me first off, and then always good to see you, Ghost. Yeah, you can find me on KREF, the home of Sooner fans. I have a weekly show there. You'll recognize names on that radio network like Teddy Lehman and Dari Noka and all those guys. So I have a blast. Been doing that for about 4 years, and we do the post-game show as well. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Travis Skol, Skol, because yes, I was born in Minnesota. Travis Skol. And then got the own podcast, JP and Trav Show. Got to check that out. And then I'm also you can find me all over the country doing relational science consulting for athletics. We've got a bunch of high school, college. We just got back from Arkansas. We're up in Illinois State baseball on Wednesday. All kinds of stuff going on. So yeah, excited to be here with you. And yes, this post game show that we'll be doing on Saturday. I've had some really good mood ones and some really bad mood ones. And probably two of the worst mood ones I ever did was taking calls after a couple of Texas games, 2022 and 2024. So hoping the 2025 version has phone calls much like we got in 2023. So happy to be here and happy to be on with Ghost, man.
Is that suede?
Ghost.
It's corduroy.
Okay.
It's corduroy because the Sooners will be making headlines on Saturday.
My name's Cord, so like I think I get like I should get royalties from you rocking corduroy. I don't know how we're gonna tie that all together, but
you just got to find a guy named Roy, I guess, and you guys can go halvesies on it.
My favorite Roy. We'll get into that another day. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me back, man. It was a fun show during the summertime. I feel like if you can remember anything I said during the summer show, I should probably touch on a few things at some point just to update where I have been right and a couple things I've been wrong on. But no, I was happy to be here, man. At 40 Acre Vibes on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. And then we've our own channel is at Total Cover Sports here on YouTube, Twitter as well, TikTok. Not really on Instagram yet, but we're coming around. All right. But no, we're there all week long. We've got guys covering Big 10, SEC, Big 12, yada yada, the whole shebang bang. We got it all covered. Talking different teams, weekly, conference updates, predictions, that whole type of thing. The vibes are good, a lot of fun over there. Everybody does a really, really good job, honestly. And then myself, just transitioned into working with Inside Texas, as Travis knows. He has joined me for my Wednesday night Around the League segment. We get in there and talk about a week around the SEC or whatever's relevant on the national scene. And then I do a couple other shows with Inside Texas throughout the week. But very active on the old Twitter sphere. You can find me on there going through, all of the emotions on game day and normally throughout the week. When your season's like this, you're getting a lot of emotions, baby.
Well, I'll give you my emotions heading into this game as the neutral party here. I am equally wrong on my preseason predictions on both teams that are present in the house. I was the Kool-Aid zone. I had Texas going to the college football finals, ultimately against Clemson. So it goes to show you that everything you're both going to tell me is better than my own predictions before season. And I was questioning whether Oklahoma's coach would be able to assimilate material in the offense there. And clearly, injury aside, I was also wrong on that. So I know nothing, and I'm the best person thus to ask questions to you guys who are in it. And I think there's really no place to start other than the quarterback in the room conversations that we have on both sides of the equation. As we recorded this show, Vegas still has Texas as a 2.5 point favorite. Don't know if that will change. That's clearly that they think Mateer is not playing. I would be stunned if they thought Mateer was playing and that was the spread. But what do I know? I also had Clemson and Texas in the college football playoff final. So first, let's start with what you can say or what Travis, on the injury side, because that part of the quarterback equation definitely impacts this game. What's the latest from what you can tell about Mateer? Is he playing in this game? Is he going to be out longer, as was reported originally when that injury came out?
Well, I'll put it this way. The initial reporting on it was reckless. Chris Lowe or Ross Dellinger or Pete Thamel or any of these guys, they have no clue. They said, okay, we're hearing like a month, but there's 27 different bones in the hand. They all can be injured to varying degrees, infinite degrees, really. And you had every Joe Schmo coming out of the woodwork going, I broke my finger back, when I was a kid, and it took me 8 weeks. So clearly me and John Mateer not only have the same injury, but we're going to heal the exact way. We both have world-class surgeons working on us. We both have all that. So, the initial timeline, I kind of threw it out the window. But even if I did know, I wouldn't say a word, and neither is Brent Venables. Brent Venables went on his coach's show tonight and said, I don't know when John Mateer is going to play football again. Like, really? You don't think he knows? But you're in a unique situation. We aren't like Texas, who played an SEC opponent this past week and had to put out an availability report, right? We played Kent State. The week before that, we were on a bye. John Mateer has not officially shown up on an availability report yet this season. So you're going to go into, Red River shootout week, and he'd probably be questionable on there. And I bet you he'll be warming up on the sidelines. I bet you won't know whether John Mateer's playing until Oklahoma takes their first offensive snaps, because that's what Brent Venables should do, and it seems that's what Brent Venables is doing, because you saw John Mateer with just a Band-Aid all over his thumb in 2 different times, at Chipotle and at church, multiple different photos at church. And then he goes out very publicly out to midfield for the coin toss on TV with a big cast on it. Seems like it could be a bit of gamesmanship going on in Norman. So not sure if he plays. I lean towards he does. I mean, I just think the timing of it makes a ton of sense. I think if you're able to play 3 quarters and 9 minutes and change against Auburn with a broken bone in your hand, and you complete over 70% of your passes after the break, and you leave the game-winning drive, throw for the touchdown, you run for the other touchdown to win the game and go ahead. I just don't think that he's a guy that would have had the surgery if he could have gone, knowing that you had a big game in 18 days. But so I think he'll go, but I don't think we're going to learn anything, and I hope we don't learn anything, because just as the 3 of us don't know, Steve Sarkisian doesn't know either. So
Right.
That's the way I want to keep it, and that's the way Brent wants to keep it.
So it goes from the flip side. I don't know that there's any question that Arch Manning is going to play, but what is the current state in terms of what's going on with quarterback, what's going on with Arch, just the vibe around the program after going into Gainesville and taking the loss to a team that had its own challenges at quarterback and on the offense over the last couple of games?
That's varying, many different opinions, man. It all depends who you talk to. If you're hanging around Twitter, if you're hanging out, if the bottom, Travis knows the bottom percent of X fans can imagine what they're saying. Their vibe is terrible. Everything is falling down. There is no recovery. There's no way that Texas can make a bowl game. Arch Manning is the catalyst to it all. He's the reason that we stunk it up in Gainesville. And then you have the people that have just a single modicum of knowledge regarding football that can see that when a quarterback is pressured 35 times, not the best case for a young quarterback. And it was Arch Manning perfect in that game? No. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I left thinking that I was more impressed with Arch Manning than I anticipated on being, because Buddy got knocked around. I mean, Buddy got his guts ripped out at times. He's getting driven down on his throwing shoulder. He's getting hit while he's midair. And again, I never questioned him having physical toughness, but I mean, it happened over and over and over and over again. And you haven't seen him yet as a Texas quarterback have to get back up from a beating like that over and over and over again. Even with Ohio State, they didn't sack Arch Manning. Arch Manning was able to elude them and get away from these guys. Florida laid some shots. And then Arch Manning played his best football in the second half when Texas needed him to. He did it against a really athletic back seven at Florida. That Florida defense hasn't been the issue. And it sounds like I'm coping. I'm really not. Our offensive line was putrid.
No,
our offensive line stunk it up.
Defense has been underrated, right? And
absolutely
in general, right? With whether it was the LSU game, I was at the Miami game, and there was a torrential downpour, and I think people just dismissed how effective Florida's defense actually was in the rain and what they do. They're legit. Texas defense is for sure legit. Oklahoma's defense is unquestionably legit as well. So I think you got a case there about, he was just getting abused in that game.
I will say though, our offense is going to look like that every single week. We don't have a layup other than Kentucky in this conference. You are going to see Arch Manning play a ton of hero ball. So for people that thought that, hey, that's a one-off performance from our offensive line, maybe it gets a little bit better, but hero ball, feast or famine, is going to be the way that Texas just plays football for the rest of this year.
So Travis, probably we're thinking that Mateer is going to play, and so we won't go into it too much, but how materially does the game change if, for whatever reason, whether he does start and has to come out because something is not working for the injury, and Hawkins needs to come in? Like, how does that change the way that offense runs for the team? How does that change your outlook for this game, even with whatever struggles Texas has been having, if you have a quarterback change for the full game and it's not just against Kent State?
Yeah, I think you want to look at what Florida was able to succeed with, right? I mean, obviously, we finally got Jaden out of the garage against Kent State. And again, Kent State, it's a big asterisk game. I totally understand, but he looked good. You could see the flashes that were there. He didn't bust off a big one, but still averaged a high yards per carry number, which was good. And Florida was able to run the ball on Texas, which is not something that I expected to happen this year. Now, I know Florida's got talented backs. They've got an experienced offensive line. I like their offensive line a lot, to be honest. But, Oklahoma's offense, and especially their offensive line, has thrived in pass pro so far. And what's interesting is it seems like Oklahoma's defense has prepared and played to a standard, whereas Oklahoma's offensive line seems to play to the opponent from time to time. You see this with our right tackle, Derek Simmons. He hadn't given up. He's a senior right now. He hadn't given up a sack since his freshman year. And he gave one up against Kent State. He didn't give one up against Michigan with, Derek Moore, a first-round pick probably on that line. He didn't give one up, with Jayshon Barham against Michigan. He didn't give one up against Kedrick Falk and Auburn, who's absolutely going to be a top 15 pick. So it's interesting to me that, when you look at what Auburn and Michigan have done to other offenses, other P4 offensive lines that they've played, they've been able to sack them 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And Oklahoma only gave up a sack to each of them. So it's interesting. It'll depend on whether that offensive line can rise to the occasion against an extremely talented Texas pass rush. Obviously, Colin Simmons, one of the best players in the country. Anthony Hill, he can blitz and he can do everything you ever want from a linebacker. He's one of the most talented guys in the country out of Denton Ryan. They've got talent everywhere, as Texas always does. Luckily, Oklahoma's no stranger to playing a talented Texas team. Texas has been talented since they invented talent. So it'll be interesting. I think the Florida game opened up some opportunity, or at least made Oklahoma salivate a bit, specifically from a defensive line perspective and from an arch hero ball perspective, because I think Brent Venables is one of the best in the business at dialing up looks that will confuse inexperienced quarterbacks. And I know that Manny's got the pedigree and the talent, and he's got all that. But when you're in the heat, it really doesn't matter. Like, you're going to get lit up by this defensive line if you have the same offensive line performance. Now, I think it is a situation where they probably watch film and just kind of snap out of it a little bit. Texas doesn't, I don't think, have just an awful offensive line. They may have had some, misjudgment on their evaluations. Maybe they should have hit the portal harder. I don't know. But I don't expect the Texas offensive line to give up like 9 sacks like they did a few years ago. So, with Arch, I think it's interesting because a lot of people are like, man, he's an elite runner. When I think a lot of people thought he was an elite runner because they were comparing him to Quinn Ewers running. And he's a better runner than Quinn, but he's not, what some of these other running quarterbacks are. If Hawkins needs to come in, that pass protection needs to be there. But I think the margin of error obviously is dramatically different. It becomes you can't turn the ball over. You have to be good in special teams. You have to make your kicks. You have to avoid penalties. When you look back at the Texas Ohio State game, Ohio State probably won that game due to Texas penalties extending drives, scoring drives more than anything, especially that touchdown that Ohio State was able to convert on the goal line. That was extended by Texas penalties. So,
30 yards.
Yep, I've expected this game really, even if Mateer plays, I think this game is going to come down to defense. I think it is going to be under the 42.5. I mean, if that would thing come out at 38, I would have taken the under because I think these are two of the best defenses in college football. I think that these quarterbacks are not behind the best offensive lines right now. I think both teams are really struggling to run the ball for injuries or whatever reasons. And I think these defenses are just gonna have a field day. So it's going to come down to catching your punts. It's going to have to come down to making your long kicks, playing the field position game, and just grinding out a tough win in the Cotton Bowl.
A man's game.
Yeah, it's going to be. And plus, it's a rivalry game, right? And most of the time in these kind of games, people elevate their play. You know, the emotions come in. You know, at least in the first half, things tend to go that way. Sometimes you have those random blowouts in these rivalries that really piss people off for another 364 days, but the adrenaline usually does a lot to at least get people in the right mode to do their best. And then sometimes it's the talent might out talent them from the other side. So, Ghost, what do you think that Sark needs to do? And maybe it's who on offense needs to step up in a way. You're 5 or whatever, 6 games into the season, right? And what can they do to help Arch help get the offense going? And what opportunities do you see if they're able to do that that would help them against this Oklahoma defense?
Oh, well, great question, man. You can really help Arch Manning in this Texas offense by stop trotting out there in 12 personnel. Quit all the condensed formations, spread people out, give them more room to operate. I thought Arch Manning let his nuts hang a little bit last weekend. Made some really, really difficult throws. The post overthrow that he made to Ryan Wingo behind the safety, I mean, it was an incredible throw, big man throw that Quinn Ewers, not making it a comparison, but a throw that Steve Sarkisian hasn't been able to rely upon in the past, and he loves that post over concept. Oklahoma's defensive line is going to win battles against this offensive front, whether we line up in 12 personnel, if we line up in empty sets, like they're going to win they're more than they lose, in my opinion. So when Texas does win a battle, when we do give Arch Manning time, when we do roll a pocket successfully, Texas has to hit on explosives. And I do think that Sark, he drew up. I mean, that dude drew up a dozen plays last week where guys are just running scot-free, trotting out into space. Either we couldn't, a couple bad throw. Well, I'd say a throw and a half was bad by Manning. Ryan Wingo missed a wide open trick play tied into Jack injuries. Arch didn't see a couple of concepts due to pressure. And so I expect Sark to be in his bag. I think he'll scheme up a couple. I know that Brent Venables is as good as anybody as mixing up things, disguising coverages, showing you one thing and getting something completely different upon the snap. But I expect Texas's wide receiving room, just maybe because we throw it 45 times, to find a couple of explosives. I still think this will be the biggest test that Oklahoma's secondary has seen so far, even if it's going to be a quarterback running from 4 or 5 Sooners on every snap and maybe throwing into some tight windows. I do think it'll be a little bit bigger of a test there. So this front seven of Oklahoma, I think that they belong in the top 3 of any discussion as far as front sevens in the SEC and most likely college football. We'll still find out a little more about them, but big fan of Jaden Jackson, big fan of a couple other guys in there. Just have to give some love to them because, you watch them on tape. I've been watching their tape for probably 16 of the last 20 hours, and they're really, really fun to watch on the defensive side, especially in the front seven.
So really great analysis from both of you. I appreciate it on that, but I also love to dive into just the pageantry of the sport and how much tradition matters. And this game is on a bucket list for me, without question. Like one day, I've been to Dallas many times. I've driven by the old Cotton Bowl, been to the State Fair. I've just never been to this game. I have to do it one time. But Travis, from a Oklahoma fan perspective, just let people who don't necessarily follow this all the time, but they clearly know about this game, understand what this game means to from an Oklahoma perspective, and then right back to you in the same question, Ghost.
Yeah, I mean, pageantry was the right word that you used. I mean, I don't know. I've been, I don't know, probably over 20 times, probably over 15 times. And it's just, you can't explain it unless you go, because especially as we, as Ghost and I walked arm in arm into the SEC together a couple years ago now, everybody was like, well, it's the Iron Bowl. It's the Iron Bowl, then it's the cocktail party, and then you got the Egg Bowl, and those are all just better games. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry that we just showed up and we already have the best rivalry in the SEC. I'm sorry. But it is. And it's, you can ask the Josh Pates of the world, you can ask others that are had just come for the first time. And they look and they're like, wow, yeah, you're right. I mean, just the fact that it's in the middle of the state fair, the fact that it's the perfect 50-50 split, always a dramatic game, the governor's meeting at midfield, the halfway point, the traditions, everybody's got their OU Texas traditions. I mean, we've got whiskey named Horns Down, for goodness sakes. We've got your Horns Down apple pie. We've got Horns Down Bach. We got all kinds of stuff. So it really is. And just the icons that have been a part of it, from the Darrell Royals to the Barry Switzers to, the Baker Mayfields and the Colt McCoys and the Vince Youngs and the Kyler Murrays and the Sam Bradfords. And you just have all of these, like, there's more legendary dudes named Roy Williams in this rivalry than there are just any dudes in other rivalries. I mean, it's everything you want in a college football game. You're intermingled with each other, but there's never a home crowd. Like, right. Even if half the stadium empties out, like, the crowd's not loud after that part if it's a blowout. It is literally, I mean, it's, hey, half the game if you're backed up, you're going to feel like you're on the road. And then once you, cross midfield, you're going to feel like you're a home game. It's a very weird vibe to it where, like, it would be strange to play in, depending on what part of the field you're in, depends on how much it feels like a home game. But if you've never been, you've got to go. There are a couple games on my bucket list, Army, Navy. I want to go to a whiteout game, preferably after James Franklin's gone. I'd like to see, somebody be competitive in a top 10 matchup. But I think I don't have the words to describe it other than you just have to go and see for yourself.
Pretty dang well said. I mean, for me, it's, Rudy's dad in the Rudy movie walking into, Notre Dame Stadium there in South Bend. And he's just like, this is the greatest sight these eyes have ever seen. Like, that is me every year when I walk into the Cotton Bowl. And I'm about to do it for the 20th time in my 36 years on this planet. I've been to every one since 2005, except for the COVID season. And most of that was just revolting against Tom Herman. It wasn't that I was afraid to go to the game. I was done. But, to me, I can't even put into words, truly, man. It is, Travis has heard me say this 100 times. Like, it is my Christmas. It is my absolute favorite day of the year. I want to beat those Rascals more than anything that I want to do for the rest of the year. And maybe that's sad because I'm a father of 3 and there's a lot going on in our house that I should maybe focus on first. But
priorities.
I grew up watching Bob Stoops. By the time that I knew what cover 2 was, I was probably 10 years old. And by then, Bob Stoops was just getting Oklahoma and beat us like drums, essentially, for 5 years. Had offenses that couldn't pick up points or yards against Oklahoma. And so, like, when you talk about rivalries like that hatred, that fire was like, it was instilled right then. And it's just something that's like never, ever gone away, man, because once you go in there and witness it for the first time, and it's just different. Everything that he said, the 50-50 split, 181 miles from Norman, 171 miles from Austin. The fair scene, I mean, it's incredible. The fried, traditions. I'm going to be in there 7:30 in the food court, and I'm going to have me a fried fireball shot out the gate, hoping Travis comes by for a time or two. He's got media obligations, but the food, man, and then the environment, the Boomer Sooners mixed with the Texas Fights and vice versa. When the Oklahoma band, I've said this before, when the drum major takes the field, there is a hatred that runs through my body. When he's doing your little backwards bend, you'd have to see it to know. There's a hatred that fills me that has never been present in any other venue or on any other playing surface. Even when I play basketball a little bit in college, like, I've never felt the same way I do in that moment. And it's one of one.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it for sure. Everyone, if you're watching this video, please go into the description, like and subscribe to the channel. But more importantly, because I wanted these guys to get the credit they deserve for joining on, please check out their channels. You should be able to subscribe to them as well. Follow them on social media. But But of course, just to wrap it up, I can't let you guys escape without probably a somewhat biased game prediction, but who knows? You never know. You get surprised. So, Ghost, what is your prediction on the game?
My prediction is that John Mateer does not play. He does go through the warmups. He does not take that first series with Oklahoma. I think he's there in case of emergency. And I think that Texas does win the game. I'll wait on a score because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mateer plays. But either way, I like the way that Texas matches up with Oklahoma on offense. I would take Texas if Mateer plays or if he doesn't play. I have to make that caveat. And it would be a game, like Travis said, that I wouldn't be shocked if either team does not get the 20 points.
Fair enough. And Travis?
I am thinking that the Oklahoma defense that has been lights out to this point and preparing to a standard. I mean, they held out probably their best 2 defensive tackles last week to rest them for this game, and Dominic Williams and Jaden Jackson. Like, they have had this thing circled. Brent knows. I mean, let's be honest, Sark is much more comfortable in his seat right now than Brent Venables is. This is a huge game for Brent. You can't lose. You've lost twice in historic fashion to Texas. You can't lose. Mac Brown once asked Barry Switzer, how to keep your job at Oklahoma so long. He said, "Oh, you just beat Texas." Like, it is number one on the to-do list. So Brent's got to do it to keep the momentum going that he's building. Feels like Texas might be a little bit wounded after that Florida loss. They may have some questions right now. There's a little bit of unrest in the fan base. And I think Oklahoma knows that they can deliver a blow that might knock Texas out of the college football playoff consideration. Might do it. They still could make it through, SEC championship and all kinds of other things. But falling to 3-3 would dramatically affect Texas's chances for their national hopes. But I think that Oklahoma wins the football game 17-13 if Hawkins plays, and they win 20-13 if John Mateer plays. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think there's going to be a lot of stalling out in the red zone for both teams. I know Brent Venables really specializes in red zone defense, and Steve Sarkisian has shown that he's had some struggles in the red zone, and even against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. So I think there's some stalling out. Again, I think it's low scoring.
Well, both of you sound pretty right. I don't think I'm going to touch this game with a 10-foot pole other than picking it just for the fun of it, but I'm definitely looking forward to catching it. Appreciate you both joining us again. Links in the description of this video. Follow these guys to get great updates on Texas, Oklahoma, and the SEC. Great follows regardless of whether you're a fan of either of those teams or knowledgeable about the sport. And you need to know about every team and every conference in modern day college football. Thanks again for joining us all, and we'll catch you guys soon.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.